When it comes to the Steelers, that quarterback competition up and rolling still the closer we get to week one. Mitchell Trubisky, of course, and rookie Kenny Pickett, the leaders in the pack for now when it comes to QB1. Trubisky, of course, coming to the Steel City looking to reboot his career. As for the Rook, viewed as one of those pro-ready guys coming out of college, as he's shown such so much through preseason and also through camp there with the Steelers. Can't forget about Mason Rudolph as well, still in the mix, having started a few games in the past for the Steel City. So mention Trubisky getting his second shot as a starter, won 29 games as QB1, signed that 2-year contract to come over here. Rudolph, a part of the Steelers' experiment overtime behind Ben Roethlisberger at 5-4 and won his record, entering that 4th year with the Steelers. And Kenny Pickett may be viewed as the future, going 20th overall. The Steelers choosing him in the 2022 draft. All right, joining me now, NFL front office insider, and also the guy. It's rare. We really don't have him inside. Rick Spielman, of course. Good to have you inside. But when we talk about the Steelers here, QB1, that has been a topic for the Steelers since Ben Roethlisberger retired. You look at it now, the closer we get to week one, there is no clear favorite. What's the situation there?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because I love Mike Tomlin, and I love what he says in the media. So you watched Kenny Pickett in that first preseason game, and he goes down at the end of the game, takes him down for a winning drive and a touchdown to win that game. And Mike Tomlin says, well, that's he's playing against the JVs. That's JV against JVs. So then last week, he got a chance to play against a very good defense down in Jacksonville. And in that second quarter, he took them down in a 2-minute drive and scored right before the half against some of their ones on the defensive side of the ball. The thing that impressed me the most about about Pickett was his poise and patience in the pocket, because the offensive line didn't play very well. And he took a few shots that normally rookies, if they see that coming, are going to scramble and get outside the pocket and try to do something. He stood in there, delivered the ball. He was throwing the ball on time, throwing the ball to receivers even before they were out of their breaks. He actually threw 2 touchdowns out that last drive, and one didn't count because of a penalty. Trubisky's been having a good camp as well, so they're going to have to make a decision after this week because they have to get ready for the season on who's going to be their starter.
If we're looking at those two guys, of course, Pickett, as you mentioned, has been showing off there. Trubisky trying to restart his career, I guess you can say, his second stint here. Mason Rudolph, what happened for him? Are they going to carry 3 quarterbacks, or could he be the odd man out here?
Well, it's a luxury because Mason Rudolph has had an excellent preseason as well. And last week he did the same thing that Pickett did in the first preseason game. He took them down at the end of the game and took them on a game-winning touchdown. I think he was 17 of 21 or 22 and 100 and some yards and a touchdown, but he's showing that through the week. And then I looked at what Mike Tomlin said there. He goes, well, that's a varsity player playing against the JVs. So I don't know if I would suggest that Tomlin say that if I'm actually trying to trade him.
Right.
But there are teams out there that I think will start inquiring about Mason Rudolph because he is a good backup quarterback, and if your starter does go down, he would have an opportunity to come in and keep the team moving in the right direction.
Let's say in the AFC North here, we know the situation with the Steelers, with the Browns, of course. They got from decent to worse maybe with Deshaun Watson now out for the first 11 weeks of the season there. Jacoby Brissett is in-house. Is that the option they're rolling with? Is there a better option, or is this the hand that they're going to be dealt this season until Watson gets back?
Yeah, I think Jacoby Brissett is their best option right now. He's been working with the ones. Kevin Stefanski, and I worked with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota, is a very even-keeled, doesn't let anything rattle him, and he'll do everything he can to understand what Jacoby Brissett does best and utilize that in their offense. But they're going to have to play great defense. They're going to have to run the ball and then let Brissett make plays in the passing game. The question I have for them is until Deshaun Watson gets back, and Brissett's been a good, solid number 2 journeyman type, but if he goes down, is Dobbs good enough to be the backup quarterback? I don't anticipate them making any type of trade for a quarterback. Everybody has talked about, and we'll talk about Jimmy G here and Garoppolo, but look at the money that Cleveland has put into that position. They have they put a lot of money into Watson's deal. He's going to make, I believe, close to $40 million in cash this year. They paid $10.5 million to get Baker Mayfield out of Cleveland down to Carolina, so they had to pay some of that freight as well. Now you're going to say you want to go out and get a Jimmy G, and he's scheduled to make $25 million and make that trade. I just don't see that happening.
You mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, he's still in the roster for the 49ers. There have been options out there. We thought maybe Carolina, Seattle. So far, it's been mum, of course, dealing with that shoulder surgery that he had this offseason. What's the future for Jimmy G as he remains there with the Niners?
Yeah, he's kind of in limbo right now. You know, I've heard that he's out there. He's not practicing with the team. He's not in meetings. He's throwing on the side. He's rehabbing his shoulder. They say his shoulder is ready to go, but no one knows that. So I do not see or anticipate anyone trading for him, especially with that price tag. He's scheduled to make over $25 million this year. So how do you give them draft compensation? How do you pay him that $25 million? And especially if we're referring back to Cleveland, he's only going to be there for 11 games before Deshaun Watson comes back and starts playing. So why would you do that? There's no way that I think San Francisco would trade him to Seattle because that's within the division. Now, what's that controversy going to be if Trey Lance is struggling and Jimmy G turns around Seattle?
Waiting for Jimmy G there, and you mentioned, of course, staying in that division there with the Seattle Seahawks. And you look at their starting quarterbacks. I joked earlier this week, Russell Wilson is not coming back. It's either Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Even Pete Carroll said it could be maybe a two-quarterback system. Again, we're closer to week one. What's the situation with the Seahawks?
Yeah, Pete said something interesting yesterday. He said, if you say you have two quarterbacks, then you have none. But he says he thinks he has two number one quarterbacks. So it was a shame that Drew Lock got COVID last week because he was scheduled to start in that preseason game. So from what I'm hearing out there is that he will get a majority of the reps. Geno Smith will start this last preseason game, and then Drew Lock will get a lot of the reps. So they got to make a decision between those two. Now, if Jimmy G gets cut, that'll be interesting to see what happens. Does he end up in Seattle if he does get released, or does he end up somewhere else? The other question that I have is, does Seattle just say, hey, we'll just go with these two guys? We have some draft capital next year, and we'll go get our franchise quarterback next year.
Let's just say the 12s will not be happy out there if that is the option heading into 2022 after having Russ all those years. Rick Spielman breaking it all down there when it comes to the QBs and the closer we get to week one. But, hey, we still got preseason action for you. Lions at the Steelers this Sunday at 4:30. We'll see who rolls out there and maybe wins that job for the Steelers. The Lions as well trying to trend up after 3 wins. You can catch that one on CBS and Paramount+. Hey, don't forget, football season is almost here, and CBS Sports Football Pick'em is the best way to step up the competition in front. Run a custom picks and survivor pool with friends and enter our CBS Sports Challenge for the chance to win guaranteed weekly and season-long prizes, plus a $100,000 jackpot. Get started now at cbssports.com/football or from the More menu on the CBS Sports app.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.